Welcome back to the Long Way Back podcast. I'm your host, Timmy Long, and I'm joined today by Georgie, my co-host, and we have a very special lady in the hot seat today, Aislinn Pierse, who's an OT, and she's going to explain all things around dysgraphia and dyspraxia. Yeah. Which is
there's a lot of disses.
I just learned his name differently as well.
Yeah.
So Aislinn, how are things?
They're good. Had a little bit of an eventful trip here. It was wet and dry, dodging the showers, but they're good. Thank you.
Good to have you here. We're very, very grateful for you turning up. And
Aislinn came highly recommended to come on the podcast. So we're so pleased because I know, the job of an occupational therapist, they're so busy, and am I right in thinking quite a lot of occupational therapists will work, some for the HSEs, some will work privately? It seems to be quite a lot of...
Yeah, that we work in loads of different places. Most people will work in one place, and the vast majority of pediatric OTs will be probably in the HSE, but you'll also have COPE, and what we do now is the CDNT teams, which are the specific teams which are to stop people going from one service and falling between cracks.
So just for anyone listening, CDNT...
Children's Disability Network teams.
That's it.
Yeah. And so they are Brothers of Charity or COPE or whatever are managing these teams, and then the HSE is kind of the overseer of them. So before a child might get referred into the HSE, and the HSE would say, oh no, actually this child needs to go here because they have autism. And then this would say, well, actually they're not too bad, so they need to go back. And there's waiting lists and waiting. So the broad concept with the CDNT team is that you go to your local CDNT team, and that they have the resources to mind you, and no matter where you are. So you could have a physical disability, a learning disability, regulation, wherever. If you have two significant ongoing needs for two disciplines, at least you'll end up in a CDNT instead of primary care, OT, for example.
Gosh, it's such a complicated system. And I often think about the parents having to go through the system, about how they become kind of briefcase warriors is how I call it. You have to, there's so much form filling and so much understanding of terminology and looking up words and looking up, my goodness me. So
even just saying that sounds so wordy, and it didn't mean to be, but the idea is, and I know there's controversy because there wasn't particularly money or staffing put around it, but the broad concept is that if you are here, you're in the right place, so there's not going to and from other services. So that part of it is a good idea.
Okay.
And do you work for the HSE?
I had done for 20 something years, and I'm not currently. I'm currently with a team with Childhood Matters based in Bresborough, and not working really over. I've a lot of children myself, and I like to mind them too. Yeah. So my own kids.
They're also important.
Very important.
Yeah.
My priority.
So how long are you working as an OT?
I'm getting older now. So I graduated in 98, so quite some time.
So have you seen a massive increase in the different numbers of people coming to you looking for an assessment?
Yeah, so massively. It started with there was always unfortunately built-in waiting list. Nearly someone's advertising, we want it, and doing it. But and then waiting lists got really long, and some of the times it just, you feel like no matter what you're doing, it's just building up. And there's times where we kind of reorganized how we're working, did something. This is in primary care, and we had so many staff and had a secretary, and we cut our sessions down to 45 minutes, and we had the clinic room used from 8 until 6. And so everyone was getting in and doing as much as we can. And then, one cog in the wheel, as in the administrator had to go to a different thing, and then
it all fell apart.
Yeah. So it can be a bit frustrating as well.
And following from what Timmy said, have you seen a kind of a rise in anything in particular and a sort of decrease in anything in particular? Or is everything just rising? Like a rise in diagnosis?
Well, I suppose originally people would have been, like back in the early 2000s, DCD or dyspraxia, as I was saying, like that would have been the key diagnosis.
Yeah.
And it's not that people don't have it or do have it now, but like there would have been a huge waiting list for that specifically. And also back in the early 2000s and back until quite recently, you had to have a diagnosis in order to access resource teaching hours, and they've got rid of that, which is great. So if you have a need, you get resource teaching hours, which is much more useful because you might have dyspraxia or developmental coordination disorder, and actually school might be your strong point, because you with coordination problems, you might hate sports, you mightn't want to do anything there where you're sitting still and learning. Not necessarily, like not for the vast majority of them, but there's a good quarter where it could be their strong point. Mm-hmm. They might have to be on a laptop as opposed to writing it. So they don't necessarily need the same resource teaching hours, and then you'd have a child who just didn't meet the criteria and didn't get resource teaching. So now that the resource teaching is based on need as opposed to diagnosis, I think that's helpful. But
that's very important.
Yeah, it is.
And when I was working in mainstream, I found that an OT would get involved, and I know the system is different in the UK to how it is here, but an OT would get involved generally for dyspraxia or DCD. You didn't really hear of them coming in for any other particular reason. Maybe there was some work if a child had diagnosis of Down syndrome, for example.
Yeah.
But generally that was... But interesting, you were saying that there is a difference between... Can you just explain the difference between DCD and dyspraxia? Because I actually thought they were the same thing.
Well, they're used completely interchangeably, but technically developmental coordination disorder is the diagnostic disorder if you were looking for one. So there's a set criteria. And dyspraxia is motor planning, which is how we plan and organize our body to move. And that's part of it. But like I said, you can have DCD and not actually have dyspraxia.
Okay.
But like there's other things feed into it, like your visual perception, obviously sensory processing, and balance, and so there's other bits that go into it, your visual motor skills and that. Yeah. So, but dyspraxia is the term that the Department of Education would use. Right. So in reports we would often have developmental coordination disorder in brackets dyspraxia, but dyspraxia is only one part of it. It's a very significant thing.
Slightly mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And the thing that we were talking about, Tim and I were talking about as well, is the dysgraphia. For me, I started learning more about dysgraphia about 10 years ago rather than sort of 20 years ago.
I still struggle to actually understand it.
Yeah. So basically, it's a problem with handwriting. Mm-hmm. And where that problem with handwriting, like I was saying, there could be like 20 different factors going into it, be it your posture, be it your hand skills, be it your attention, your learning, your IQ, you're not in the mood, you're tired. There's so many different factors. So if you have a problem, we have to figure out, where is the problem? Is it because you can't stay still for long enough to do it? Is it because your hands won't work? Is it because you know what you want to do, but the motor planning, the dyspraxia part is going against you? So we figure out how we can build up. Do we need to build up hand strength? Do we need to build up the muscles within the hand? Or do we need to focus more on coordination or focusing or attention? So there's loads of different parts to it.
So it's like the icing on the cake.
Like I said, it's often a reason a child gets referred into occupational therapy. And then as you delve into, they do have a problem, then actually it's it's not good enough really to say they have a problem and saying, here's a laptop, or better still, here's this tool and we do it. It's better to know where that problem is and then work with that. So do they need strengthening? What is it that's blocking this child with handwriting? Are they left-handed? Do they need to do it differently? Are they, so they can get there, and like laptops are great, but it wouldn't be my go-to starting point. Because there's a skill in the actual skill of writing, be it drawing or colouring. And some kids hate that, but there is something. So I would say, unless, now if you had juvenile arthritis or you had an amputation or something, there's reasons why going straight into assistive technology is a really good idea. But if I was in charge, what I would just do is come 6th class, the child chooses laptop or pencil.
Right.
I think I like that. I like that because I don't think today we give the kids enough of responsibility for their own actions.
Yes.
Totally.
I think it's wrong because the child knows what they want and they know what they don't want.
Yeah.
Like if a child's at home and they're struggling with something and they don't want to go to school and they're really struggling, a parent is obviously going to be struggling as well. And it's not, you really, really, really have to look at the situation and look at what's important.
Yeah.
Is my child's mental health and well-being more important than their education? And if education is, if the way they're being taught isn't benefiting them, you really have to have a look at the whole process, the whole thing, and maybe look at sitting down with the child and asking them in detail, how are you feeling? What's going on for you? What do you need us to do? There's no pressure. We have no pressure on you here. If this isn't working for you.
100%. Yeah, because you go back to the handwriting and say they have a problem. Their handwriting might be just, if I don't try, then I can't fail. So I don't want to do that. No, but it's like, or, I get given out to every time I do this. So like, obviously there's other reasons, but that idea of actually like connecting with the child themselves, figuring out where they are finding things difficulty beyond a diagnosis. Like I feel there's a huge emphasis on diagnosis, and I know there's a value in it too. But like if you look at dysgraphia, that can be a key feature of DCD, of autism on its own, anxiety. Like, so if you just look at it, this child is having problems with handwriting. And even as I said, why are they having handwriting problems? Is it something as simple as like it could be a Leaving Cert student who's a big, tall, man-sized student with big hands, sitting in a chair that's very uncomfortable with a pencil that's this size, and actually saying, do you know what? Let's just get the dynamics of this bit right. They need a bigger hand, a bigger pen, a bigger pencil for them to use with their bigger. It will be less tiring for them to use. If we get these bits right, maybe that's all they need. Or maybe there's too much visual stuff and it's kind of a question of we clear up their space or only write on one side of the page or go onto computers. But it's a question of figuring out for that individual child, be they 4 or be they 19 or whatever, where is the actual problem?
I mean, totally. Thing is, diagnosis is helpful, but I think it also depends on the interpreter, because if you are, if you say, I'm dyslexic, to someone who understands dyslexia as X, and then they sort of go, that's what it is. But in fact, it covers so many aspects and so many layers.
Is a great example, because dyslexia at one point was it means you have a difficulty with reading and spelling.
Yeah, backward in writing.
And and then it got broad and broad and broad and broad. But then they started using the term specific literacy disorder. I know people use the term dyslexia as well, but the refinement of it meant that, if someone has dyslexia, I know I think it's more useful saying that they have a problem with reading and writing.
Yeah.
They might have disorganization, but that can come into loads of things. They might have poor planning.
Processing problem, working memory.
But actually calling them as they are, the individual things is much, dyslexia. That's because of the autism.
Every lesson I teach is so different. You can't, you've got to have totally different resources. They may all have a diagnosis of dyslexia, but they've all got a completely different profile, different needs, and it, that's what we always need to remember, that yes, diagnosis is helpful. But as you point out, it's actually, let's look at where are the gaps? What is it that's going to help them to move forward? What is it that's going to help them to become independent learners and resilient as well? Because we do want to hear them, but we also want to help build their resilience. Yeah. Because life is tough, school is tough. And, we know that dyslexics on the whole have to work so much harder, same with ADHD. But so we want to support them, but help strengthen them too. It's a...
Yeah.
Sorry, that's me ranting on.
No.
No, but what you're saying is right, and that would be the right way to do it. But when you're getting, there's a lot of push as well. Like you could have 1,000 horsepower behind the push against this education board in this country, and you're still not getting fucking anywhere. You're not going. It's just so. It's so penciled in stone how somebody should be taught in this country. And we need to roll with the times. With what we know today and the research that's done, there's no two students the same. You might have a handful inside a classroom who are really struggling to be taught in the education model that we have today, and it's not working. And kids are starting to shut off, and they're getting lost because they're missing what was said yesterday. And the classes have to continue on what was talked about yesterday. And that child is still stuck on yesterday's content, trying to understand what that was. And the class is moving forward, and they're just saying, what's the point?
And then they're put under the pressure of exams.
Yeah, I'd nearly, in some ways, you could start with what's wrong with the education system. And I have to say, the teachers are amazing. And you have one teacher with 30 kids or whatever. Yeah. All who are all individuals. Some might have more obvious needs, but even the quiet one who looks like they just might need the right smile or saying, well done or whatever. And for that one person to divide herself up or himself up in 30 for whatever many hours a day, it is a challenge. But if I was to say what's wrong, I would give more choice, definitely, with regard to how do you write? Why do we do that? But it's wrong, the Leaving Cert. Why do we end our amazing parts education system with an exam that, and I have a daughter, one has already done it and one who really wants to do well and is doing it at the moment. And it's so stressful for her. And it's so stressful for so many kids. And even if they kind of go, I don't mind, that means, I'm not even going to try in case I fail. Or what if I do this? It's so loaded. And it's good to hear they want to get more apprenticeships and things. But also, why does everyone in the country have to do English, Irish and maths at Leaving Cert level? If luckily for my daughter, she had a diagnosis of dyslexia, but I have another kid, one of my own kids again, who possibly doesn't have, as he would say, I don't have enough dyslexia. And, but
to be recognised by the system.
To be recognised by the system. I said, work away your own. But he'll probably have to do all the languages. Now, hopefully he'll be able to chat to them, but he's not going to do well in those. Whereas she gets to choose the subjects that she's good at. And if children could maybe keep those subjects obligatory up until 3rd or 4th year, but then do the ones that you feel more confident or you're more interested. And again, I know there's
I don't know why they do that. I mean, the UK, they certainly haven't got it right. I can tell you, there's a lot of problems over there. But at sort of A level, stage, so the same as leaving cert.
Yeah.
By that point, you've chosen your subjects. You don't have to do English. You don't have to do maths. If you wanted, you could do, French, history of art, and I don't know, geography. But it's not such a pressure in that way.
Yeah.
That you've
like
got
if you're good at maths and you love it, do it.
Great.
And I know that a certain amount of maths knowledge is good, but let that be at this level and then pass something smaller or unimportant saying, yes, they have standard maths or standard English or whatever. But with the other ones, and like I know they're 16 choosing, they're leaving cert. So maybe it's okay to have 5 subjects instead of 3, but just don't make them do languages or don't make them do maths at a very high level.
Choice is just so important. I was talking about this with Banu, who I know you've worked with, and about the English, for example. There's if there could be a bit more choice in the poems that they choose or the plays that they choose. Whereas you are kind of basically forced to do certain texts, which if you don't find meaningful, how are you going to engage? How are you going to do well with it? It's so, if you could bring something in to the subject that's meaningful to you for whatever reason, it could be a rap song instead of a poem, but still the idea behind it is the same. There would just be so much more enjoyment in the learning.
Yeah. And
easier.
Yeah. And some of it is like the teacher themselves, like if the teacher themselves is really into poetry, they will pass it on, or really into maths, but they're whatever their subject and they have that, they love it and they can pass it on to you no matter where you're at. If it's the teacher's responsibility to do it, and if they love their subject, they love their job, they will achieve that.
Well, I suppose I think something that astounds me as well is that you're right. Like majority of teachers they are so dedicated and so passionate, but it amazes me. That the system, but it also amazes me when they're training that you can opt out of special educational needs modules. And then they come into a classroom where we know there's going to be kids with additional needs and they're not prepared.
Yeah.
And, it astounds me that it's optional, that it isn't like when you've got a quarter of your class who need to learn specifically in a very different way, that makes your job even harder as well. 100%. Not to mention those kids who are sitting there going, I haven't got a clue what's going on.
Yeah.
Actually, so leaving cert, that's that. But if I was to go back to primary school again and look at it, one of the things is that I think teaching children about diversity, teaching children to be nice, to be kind, what inclusion is. And I don't mean in first year, like obviously it should all, but I mean in junior infants. Again, with one of my own kids, he had the privilege of having a boy in his class who had Down syndrome. But because he was coming, the school were amazing. They were really good. They got all the kids, making sure they showed, how to share and games you might play. And they all learned some law of signs and just how to be inclusive and how to be kind and how to call out mean behavior. And children, I think,
that's beautiful.
It's so nice. It was so good. But that class, I would always say now, are the nicest, kindest class of all my kids' classes. And as individuals, there's lovely kids in every class. They're
you
all
see that
fantastic.
Yeah.
But we have the ability as the adults in the room or whatever to actually give them that little bit of, this is nice, this isn't. And just simply saying, oh, you don't save your seat if someone wants to sit down there, or, be sure you include Aisling in the game, or little things, how to be nice. And it's not giving them the responsibility of minding the child, but it's showing them how to be nice and how to be inclusive and knowing that excluding people is wrong.
In every way.
But unless it's explicit, like we're expecting 12 and 13-year-olds, don't bully, don't exclude, exclusion is the worst form. And we all know this, and they're then told that. But if they're actually explained it at the very start, they'll end up more inclusive and they'll accept diversity and they'll go, well, you find it hard to stay still, and you find it hard to read, and you find it hard to whatever.
It's why as well bullying becomes such a big issue at secondary, because, you know, sometimes you get a story like this where they grow up together in primary school, they're totally accepting and understanding, and then they go and they all get plonked in this massive school where everyone's got different needs, and then you've got the group there who understand and have patience and kindness and inclusivity, and then you've got other groups who haven't, and then the bullying occurs, and this, you know, and it's just so sad. One of the things I wanted to ask you, being an occupational therapist, is if you are a child who has anxiety and dysregulation. So in the past, I've used when it's obvious to me there is a child who is sensory seeking in some way, or overstimulated or understimulated. I've used lap weights and I've used cushions. And what advice could you give to teachers or and parents about how do we help the kids who are either kind of falling off their seats or can't sit down, or who are clearly upset and are about to lose it?
Okay.
There's a lot of questions there.
So just generally, children need to move, and they should be moving. And we have this system called the vestibular system, which keeps our attention focused. It's, you know, if you're at a lecture or you're at something, or you're feeling tired, you're doing that, you get up and move, and that moving is that alerting system.
One of the 8 senses.
There's actually what changed. There used to be 5 senses when I was in secondary school, and then there were 7, and there's 8. I think there's about 12 now, but there's many of them.
Yeah.
And the vestibular system, which is your movement system, so it's your balance, but it's also your attention and arousal. So it changes throughout the lifespan. So a child can be doing Funderland, and my granny doing this, she feels she's just done Funderland. So like how you move your head changes. But what we want to know about the vestibular system or your movement system is, how are you compared to the rest of your peers? So are you the baby that has to be jiggled the entire time? You know, or are you, as soon as you're told to sit still when you're 5 at your desk, falling asleep? Now, most classrooms and schools bring in a much more movement in junior and senior infants than there would have been in my day, and it's increasing all the time. But and they'd all have their go noodles and their break. But moving during the day is what all children need. And like, you know, if you think of when we start school, the age has also pushed a little bit older. But in some schools, you don't even start school till you're like 6 or 7. And we're getting them to go to school younger. So they really should be moving a huge amount, even up to, you know, the entire secondary school, the entire primary school. The idea of we're helping them get ready for secondary school, there's an element of that, but I would just involve an awful lot more movement, because what you're really doing is you want children to learn well, to know the bits, and if they're learning well by running up and down outside rather than sitting at their desks doing whatever, you're better getting them learning well. You want them to be nice and kind to each other, and to be open, like, you know, as not to feel that stress, so that they can learn. So I would definitely do an awful lot more movement. So if a child does require an awful lot of movement, you know, you have air cushions, movement sit, or you have, you know, therapy balls, but getting them up and around and moving, or movement breaks, giving out the copies is a really good thing. And then you have a child who's actually falling asleep, they need more movement as well.
Definitely.
So giving it to them. And actually what I'd often say is I've this handout or whatever, purposeful physical play. So what it is you get them to the point of exhaustion. And you'd often hear parents saying, well, you'll never tire my Johnny out. Like, not him. But if you, no matter, like if you repeat the same, because what kids do is like they're going on the swing and then they go on the side, and then everyone, not just children, as soon as you get tired, you use a different set of muscles. But like, you know, if you're doing a plank, you can do that, but then you move on to a different type of exercise and you can do that one or do it, but it's repeating the same one that's tiring. And so you set up a little obstacle course if they're, you know, young, or they've set movements that they repeat again till they get to that point, or they get them to run fast enough where they're actually a little bit out of breath.
And they're using different muscles as well, which is...
You can use whatever, but you want to get to that point where the child is actually a little bit out of breath. And so if you're walking, then if they're like, for a 5-year-old child, they might have to walk for like 50 minutes, or depending on the child. If they're running, they probably have to run for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If they're doing burpees, not that a 5-year-old probably could, but depending, they probably have to 1 minute or 30 seconds. So if you're working hard, what that does, it reorganizes your vestibular system, but then this other system, your proprioceptive system, kicks in, and that one is your body awareness. So the fact you can do this with your eyes closed, knowing where your body is, so you can put on your socks or get dressed without looking at every single thing. That system is the universal regulator, so it calms down everything. So when you've used your muscles well, your proprioceptive system is activated and your vestibular system. So now you can learn because you're feeling calm, you're feeling alert.
I was, as you were talking about the sensory movement there earlier on, I was feeling the table like this, and something clicked, and I said, "Oh," and I brought it inwards towards myself for a bit, and then while I moved my hands off the table, I found myself twiggling my fingers and nearly picking at my nails, you know, under the table. I'm saying, I've ADHD and I'm dyslexic as well. But even just the movement for an adult like that, there's I know a lot. My mother used to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, or shaking the leg.
Yeah.
Is that sensory seeking? That is sensory seeking, isn't it?
Would that be, you play them throwing fingers, would it be sensory seeking? Or even here now when I was like this, I was like...
Yeah, 100%. And particularly when you're doing something like quite fine with your hands, or chewing on something.
Yes.
That's refining it. You've probably had a long day doing a good few bits.
Like for me, it's like I'm rubbing up my feeling
just
of
doing
my nail
it.
like that. Up and down and up and down. And it's like, just like that under the table and just flicking the nail off each other, not picking it really. But, and I remember my mother, you know, God rest her soul, like my mother used to do the exact same thing.
Okay.
And I remember there a while back, it's very interesting because it got me thinking when I seen a psychiatrist around the ADHD, and he said something to me about my mother when I was telling him the story of my own kind of upbringing and whatever, and he was saying, like, your mother had there was something going on for your mother. Like she had some diagnosis around maybe autism. Yeah. Or Asperger's or something to that nature.
Connection.
You know, and he was able to make that connection for me, even just telling him about her. You know, like I was kind of, you know, but I think it's amazing that we've so many different adults walking around today who haven't the foggiest clue about why they feel the way they feel, or why they act in the way they act. And maybe an explanation around something around that might give them a better understanding of themselves. You know, we're very focused on the children of today, let's be honest, and which is critical in my view. Yeah. But we have so many adults walking around lost in their heads because they don't know why they're behaving or acting in the way they do.
And I'd say some of them will self-soothe, but in an unhealthy way, you know, with drugs or alcohol. And, you know, if there's an adult now listening going, well, that's me. You know, I'm constantly wanting to touch, fiddle, you know.
And they might be listening because of a child, because they're trying to learn more about a child. And from what we're talking about here, no, they might bring it back in themselves a little.
What healthy things could they do, like, at home or I mean, obviously exercise, like we know the benefits of exercise.
An endorphin. Like that purposeful physical play like I'm as likely to do that with a 4-year-old as with a 19-year-old, as with myself or whatever. That idea of if you do something intense, but the problem is if you're feeling really bad or you're in a location where you can't, it's kind of having the motivation to even do that. Like it depends on like, as in,
That's true.
Yeah.
you know, as in if you need to fiddle, if you're a fiddly person, I personally would say that's fine.
Mm.
If you can't, that's the problem. So it's not, how do I stop fiddling? How do I stop moving? You kind of alter it, say, well, what's an appropriate way to do? But I know for, you know, a person, if they need to sit still for 20 minutes because of the requirements of the job or whatever, the thing to do is do something intense beforehand, movement wise.
Okay.
But it has to be intense. Now, obviously,
Like going to the gym.
Yeah, but even if you're in work, it might be that you actually do even, you know, like movement in your chair, or you get up, you walk around. If you're having something like adults, if we do any movement, it reorganizes our system at all. Like walk up the stairs or walk up and down the stairs 2 or 3 times, or down as far as the car park and back in if you have the 5 minutes to do it. And if you're raining, you run, you know, whatever. Those things do help us regulate. But the other things, like the opposite is also true. Sitting down and breathing, but taking that time, like as in when your out breath is longer than your in breath, you've activated your parasympathetic nervous system, which will calm you down as well. So
you're talking about it, and all I want to do is breathe, like just like breathing through my nose. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So fiddling, moving, because so you've had a long day, you're doing this, you're doing it more because you have to pay attention to me, and your body's doing exactly the right things with doing it.
I'm also in a bit of a 3-day fast at the moment, so I haven't eaten in 2 days. So
wow.
So that's probably a little bit about it, and just on water, really.
That's amazing.
But I find that really helps me to regulate my system as well.
Yeah.
And clean out whatever needs to be cleared out. So it's, even though my mind is telling me at the moment that go home now and have something later on, I just kind of bring it back into the feeling of the hunger.
Yeah.
Instead of going into my mind and the mind trying to take control and making up reasons for me to go home and eat.
Yeah.
But I'm full of energy. I trained twice today.
Wow.
You know, it's just, the mind is so used to eating at certain times and routine of eating that it's just consistently coming in.
Yeah, and with kids.
And I'm sitting here then and I'm managing that as well as doing my flicking.
I am so impressed.
Yeah, same. I'm doing 16-8 and I thought that was impressive, but that's,
I've done 4 kilos since what day is today? It's Tuesday. I started. I weighed myself Monday morning. I think I was 102 kilos. This morning I was 98.7 or something.
That's all we need to do.
So
that's it.
But what it really does is it just completely regulates your body.
Your mind.
Gets you more mindful, and it just re-kicks your whole immune system.
Yeah.
And so when I go back eating normally, it's like I'm just back eating normally. But no, you have to start off with liquids. Starting off,
you have to break the fast, don't you?
Yeah. So that's, you know, but this flicking stuff, just bringing it back to that. That's the sensory stuff with the table. Yeah. We had a suede table. It was a blackjack table before, and I used to rub that.
Bits worn into it.
Always, constantly rubbing it.
Yeah.
You know, and no, it's not that I'm looking for a diagnosis around myself or anything like that. It's just I know that helps me to
regulate,
to be more mindful.
Yeah.
When I'm soothing myself like this, I can tune in a lot more. I'm tuned in. When I'm not soothing myself, there's agitation in my body.
You'll be thinking about your body, or you'll be going in or looking outside, because if you need to do it, so the trick is not to stop it. It's to support it.
Right.
So like as in giving kids piece of something to twiddle in their fingers, helping them like maybe chew on something, like chewing gum actually is amazing. The mouth is a really good regulator.
A lot of schools won't allow chewing gum though.
Yeah.
Annoyingly.
No, they don't. But I've had a lot of teachers when written as explaining that it is really important for X child. And I understand why they don't, because it can end up.
Yeah.
But for some of the children who have more significant regulation problems,
motor,
it's not just it just when you brings like your outbreak, it just helps focus the mind, so they're chewing and they're able to do their writing. And if it's given by the teacher, and I mean a wad, not like one tiny thing, and they're able to chew a little bit, and then they have to put it into the bin at the end. So I've had a lot of teachers who have used chewing gum with children. Again, it is something schools couldn't let every single child, and that's not one that I'd say leave the child, because it could be chaotic. It is really good. But sipping water, again, like when we were kids, you weren't allowed to take out your drink until it was break time. But now most classes have the water bottle on the kids' desk, and they can get a drink.
I've noticed that can really help, and you can get for anyone with more severe kind of. Can't remember when there's because the mouth has so many senses. Yes, oral motor control. Thank you. Some of them you can get these chews that you can hang around the neck, and actually they can just chew on it. Otherwise, you get the sucked sleeves with the threads.
Oh yeah, it's why the kids.
Oh, the kids, they're literally sopping wet. They've been sucking on
not just wet, they're torn.
The collar, and the collars, sopping wet as well.
That bit,
Or the nails.
The nails. Yeah, another one.
Pencils.
I find those tiny.
My hands used to be covered from tattoos. The hand.
Drawing them in class.
Constantly, my pants, my hands, my bag. Everything I could get my hands on. The table was
giving childhood you something would have actually helped you.
To take me away from the stress of actually sitting there, knowing that I wasn't able to comprehend what the teacher was saying.
Sit still, don't move.
That was never going to happen.
But it's never going to happen. And then it means any tiny bit of attention you had was focused on
trying to sit still.
Don't talk, sit still, do this. Okay, I'm sitting still. Whereas if you were able to just learn, then you'd have been able to gather some of what the teacher was saying.
So if I'm sitting here and I'm struggling, would it be okay for a teacher to give me something to fidget with?
I was going to say,
just to watch the board.
I'm going to
take in what I could.
I'm going to get you a tin of putty. Because I give every child I work with, I hand them a tiny tin of Aaron's Crazy Aaron's Thinking Putty. That's not my husband, Crazy Aaron. That is the brand.
I thought he was after making the brand.
Do you know,
I thought he was acting the inventor at home or something.
Uniquely, it is called Crazy Aaron's Thinking Putty, and it's the beauty of it is doesn't make a noise. So you just take the lid off the tin, and they all come in different colors and textures. And the kids, without fail, will get the tin, and they will, for whatever reason, sometimes it's good for strengthening muscle tone in your fingers.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's anxiety. Sometimes it's trying to keep focused.
Yeah.
And I always say to the parents, do ask the teachers if they can take them in. They're tiny. You can pop them in a pencil case, pop it in your pocket. And they're not distracting.
Yeah.
If they're used appropriately.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The teachers are great for therapy, with Crazy Aaron's.
The reason why I say, I don't know if you're allowed to mention brands, but it's because they come in small tins and they're very well made. So they last for years.
Okay. Yeah.
And they don't leak and they don't get stuck on
clothes and in hair.
No, exactly.
I've lost more trousers than most people obviously.
It's not slime.
It melts in.
Because some of the cheaper stuff gets stuck, and this is really good, and they're kept in these kind of airtight. I'm going to get you a nice pot of the putty.
Keep the pot on the floor, and I'll play around it.
And I'll get you one for your pocket and your pencil case. One thing I really wanted to ask you, which I read about a lot in the papers, and I know it's controversial, but game playing. So the hours and hours of not just screen time, but it's the actual sitting and this muscle here in your thumb and I don't even know because I don't do it, but I see it, and the addiction to the gaming that comes, and all I ever hear is kids should be moving. Kids should be moving. Kids should be moving. Now, look, you've got these amazing Wiis, haven't you? You can play tennis, you can play golf, that's fantastic, but that's not the game playing I'm hearing about. I'm hearing about, well, look, we know them all. Yeah. We know there's goodness in things like Minecraft, they build things, they use their engineering, but the hours. Yeah. It can't, and then they come into school exhausted.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that be it you're on a PS4 or Xbox or iPad or phone, social, as in technology, be it gaming or social media, whatever, that's the main difference between us and the kids. And me, will never be able to catch up with them. So it is putting in rules, and some of the things we need to tread backwards as a country, and we need to take some of the burden of it away from kids. Because we all have the potential of getting completely addicted to anything. Yeah. Because that's how our brains are made. Yeah. If it's good, let's stick with it. Yeah. Even if it's good for the wrong reasons. And then we're all busy, and as parents, you try to be the best parent you can, but you're sick, or you've had a bad day, or
you can't monitor 24/7.
No, but even if you put things in place and then you're fighting and you're not connecting with your child. Yeah. So there's loads, and it's way bigger than me, but definitely we need to reduce. And like you said, there can be benefits. Children who have physical disabilities can get involved in games. We've talked about a laptop in school, but reduce. And I do think I was reading there a few weeks ago about them putting more limits on social media stuff, like that children have to be older again. I think it's not an easy decision to make, as in one parent making that decision. You don't want your child to become socially excluded from, by the time they're in first year, if they don't have a smartphone, they are very, very much excluded and could be victim of bullying. But it needs to be something done across the board, not one parent, not two parents, not even one school. It's something that I think we need to do something and look at it a little bit more. And there's loads of positive things about, there's this, they get to listen to podcasts, and there's learning, but actually we don't need to know everything, and we do need times where, you don't.
I mean, you must get kids with crooked necks from this. You know what I mean? It's actually, it's interesting. Two things. Kids with you were sore neck.
Yeah, I've got sore neck. Kids with dyslexia, sometimes the screen when they're younger can bother them.
100%.
So they want to be out a little bit more. And then Minecraft or some of those games brings them back in because they're able to do something with their friends, and they're kind of doing it for that, or whatever, FIFA, I don't know. And then the other thing is that kids who have ADHD or something, they also need to move. Yeah. But then what happens is they sit down in front here, and then they're gone. Come for dinner, do anything. So it is about kind of helping. I wonder if our children, the whatever 12-year-olds of today, when they are parents, they will have been through it, so the rules and regulations will be in place. Because in fairness, I think it's really, really hard on kids and on parents.
We talk a lot about social media. It comes up in most podcasts, and the sort of negatives and the time that's spent on it, and fights, and rewards. And then COVID used as babysitting and habits and the
cyberbullying's a big issue. And it's, I suppose what strikes me talking to you is the time that is spent not moving that worries me. Yeah. Along with all the other stuff.
And the eye strain.
Yeah.
Do you know? And the posture you're
and isn't
in,
there some kind of...
You're not sitting in the most supportive thing. Most of them are sitting backwards on a couch, do you know, swinging off whatever. Like,
I suppose parents' concern really is just what kind of effects social media are, just not so much social media, but just sitting in front of a screen is going to have on our kids long term, because they are the generation that are coming up. And we really genuinely don't know the real effects that it's going to cause to the children, maybe around their social, their social kind of environment, maybe their internal kind of understanding what they need, knowledge of what they need to be able to feel good, because they're getting it from an external source, which is they're getting dopamine hits because of the games they're winning, or the new follower or the like. You know, so we really don't know. We won't see it, I think, for maybe another few years.
And like, in a way, we're beginning to, and even earlier you were saying that, you know, you'd feel stressed about doing it, you know, on the new chat GPT thing that was out today that goes, oh, it looks like you're having a good time. Like, you can see how this, I saw a blind man, he was going around London and was going, oh, you're looking at Big Ben and the bridge is here and it's filled.
Gosh.
You can see the advantages. But when a child is going to get better connection from a phone than from a parent or a sibling or a friend, we are walking into...
That was well said there.
Yeah.
That was very well said. And can you repeat that again? Really?
You remember?
Can I remember? I go once. But basically, I just think we're walking into a crisis, not quite blindfolded. We can see that the connection, the potential of a child getting connection, better connection from a sibling, a parent, or a friend being a screen is very there, because this screen has algorithms that, you know, if I'm tired, like maybe I'm very well connected to my child, but I'm tired and I haven't quite read the cues, and they're going, oh, you don't get me, mommy. But the screen will have got this, and we're just there. So and then we're a social being, and without that social connection, we lost it. And like, you know, I could go.
I know this is a conversation
that could go on and on and on, because as we said 5 minutes ago, we just really don't honestly know how it's going to affect the generation of youth that's growing up today.
Yeah.
How it's going to affect their well-being and stuff. I don't. Like, you hear all these research papers coming out, and these TED Talks and YouTube videos about the effects of social media and how it's damaging us. Yeah. And we spoke about it last week, how when you add up all the time in your life between sleeping and eating and everything else, and by the age of 18 and work, we'll spend 93% of the time on our phones. That's
scary.
Outside of the things we need to do to take care of ourselves, the toilet, the food.
Of our free time,
of our free time. Outside of the things we need to do, our free time, work is included in this section.
Yeah.
Our complete free time is screens.
Yeah. And like, we're all slightly, you know, you're getting into it. And like, do you know, when you met me, you gave me a hug.
Yeah.
Which is very nice.
Yeah.
And I know this is also kind of a controversial area, because obviously you have to have children's well-being number one on the list, and you can't risk that. But our society had, and there was loads of bad things as well, but it had more contact, and children do need contact.
And you know what? It's not just children. I read one of the most upsetting, but older people, the older generation, I read a very upsetting article. It really got me, actually, about the fact that because sometimes they can look frail, people don't hug them.
Squeeze them.
They don't touch them and squeeze. And the importance of feeling someone's touch, you know, that connection like you were talking about. And there's sort of, it's just, it's quite disturbing that you know, that there's a real sense of loneliness when people don't.
And even shaking hands, like, just in one part of my life, I'm, like I said, going doing housing assessments, and that connection with a person and finding out what's important to them, where they need to be. It is so important that you look at them as an individual and as a person, and they're bigger than whatever diagnosis they may or may not have.
Yeah.
But that, like, you shaking hands or whatever, like, you don't have to be doing much more than that, because obviously you're a stranger in their house. But it does connection. We all need it. We all really need it. And because of very good reasons, we're reducing it.
Of course, I understand with the history.
But we
and
have to
everything.
be careful about that too.
Yeah.
You don't want abuse. You don't want anyone vulnerable. But where is our balance? And then you have screens doing it, and that's reducing it again. We just physical and emotional connection will regulate us. Will help us feel good.
Aisling, is there something that you would really like to talk about? Maybe something that we haven't brought up already? Is there anything that you think needs to be spoken?
Go on.
No, I think I could go on any area for a long time. I do like my job.
Yeah.
I think it's important. And I'm very much one who gets stuck down a rabbit hole, no matter which one I look at. So.
Yeah, fair play to you. That means you have passion, and you're passionate about what you do, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, especially when you're working with young people, and you're able to give them what they need because of the passion that you carry within you and the understanding that you have. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Listen, thank you so much again for joining us today. Ash,
my pleasure.
We're very grateful, aren't we, Georgie?
And Tony. So grateful.
Yeah, great.
And every time we have somebody on talking about the Neurodiverse series, I learn so much about myself and my own children, because we don't talk about this stuff enough, even though it's becoming so prevalent within our society. Right. It's everywhere. And
I learn a lot about the profession as well. I'm not a great reader, and so I learn most from talking to people. And I just think it is so. I mean, literally, the stuff that you've said tonight that's got my brain ticking over as well. It's just so healthy to keep learning. In our environment.
100%. So again, thank you for coming on. We're very grateful.
Thank you.
And thanks, Ashley.
Georgie, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to Tony for helping us out again this evening, who's always the master behind the deck. So thank you, Tony. So once again, thank you so much for listening. I'm Timmy Long from the Long Way Back podcast. God bless. Bye-bye.